Good morning and welcome to Accelerate You, where we hope to inspire you with low cost and often free resources to accelerate you. And this morning on our morning show, I'm so excited to have our guest, Ingrid Wicker McCree. Ingrid is the CEO and founder of WM Leadership and Legacy Coaching. You all also may know her as a former coach. She's been around for a while and we're so excited to have her on the phone with us today. Welcome, Ingrid. Welcome.
Thank you so much. I'm very excited to chat with you all today and excited for the conference.
Wonderful. Let's talk about that. You're coming to Rocky Mount on March 30th for a conference. Tell us a little bit about that.
I was invited to participate and share some of my experiences with the women that will be in attendance on that day on March 30th. In Rocky Mount at the Event Center for the Women's Leadership Conference. And so I am just ecstatic about this opportunity to share. I've been in higher education and community relations for 30 plus years. And so whenever I have the opportunity just to share with other people, other women especially, on leadership, I embrace the opportunity to do so.
Well, we're so excited about you coming. And just in case our audience is not aware, you're coming to Rocky Mount at the Rocky Mount Event Center on March 30th from 8 to 1 for the Rocky Mount Area Chamber of Commerce's Women's Leadership Conference. This is the 5th year of the conference, and this is a fantastic conference to come to. And this is not a conference just for women business owners. This is truly women in leadership, women empowerment. We hope that you will come and you will have many takeaways and tools and meet people like Ingrid. From 1 to 3 after the conference, we will also have a networking session, which is free to ticket holders, so you can get up close and personal to some of these most wonderful people. Now, Ingrid, you said you spent 30 years in higher ed. Bless you. Tell us a little bit about that and how that has formed your leadership style.
Well, I was very, very blessed to have worked in the state system of North Carolina for 30 plus actually years. Starting off at North Carolina State University as a grad student with women's volleyball. I played at George Washington University, but being from this area, a woman leader asked me to come and serve as her grad assistant, and so I took advantage of that. That led me to a career in athletics. I left from North Carolina State. I actually worked for pre-trial in the jail in Raleigh for a few minutes, but I ended up at North Carolina A&T, and that was my very first coaching job, volleyball there. I was the youngest Division I coach at that time in the country, and so started developing my coaching skills and leadership skills then. That led me to North Carolina Central in 1994 as the head volleyball and softball coach and teaching. And then from there, I worked for about 5 different athletic directors. Each one, I shared with them my goals and aspirations of becoming an administrator, and they put me in that position. They gave me responsibilities along the way, business, game day operations, and all of that. And when my predecessor left to go to Florida A&M, I was in the right place in the right time, and Charlie Nams, who was the chancellor at the time, said to me it was time to give a woman an opportunity. And so I was just very blessed. Again, I'm from Durham, so I'm at home. Had support the whole time from my family, my husband, in terms of raising our 3 kids. So just a great opportunity that I've had working for North Carolina Central University, North Carolina A&T, and NC State in the 30 years. And so now I retired in June, on June 1st, 2022, and embarked upon a consulting career. And so now I'm still in the athletic spaces with each of my contracts, but loving life, loving the ability to do more with my family. My daughter's a freshman volleyball player at Norfolk State University, so I was able to go and watch her play during the fall. So just an incredible career, but just had a huge village to help me do all the things that I've done in my career and personally as well.
So let's talk about that. You mentioned a couple of things. You mentioned the village, you mentioned luck, and you mentioned that I sounded like a mentor almost when they were exiting, they were bringing you in. What can you say to women who may not be quite as fortunate, who would like to move up in a leadership role, and perhaps they don't have someone that's exiting and thinking about them as a replacement?
So what I always share with young people and young, junior professionals, that you have to let people know what you want to do first, because you never know who knows who and who can help you. So I'm really big on sharing your goals and dreams so that people that are in the right position that can help you along the way can do so. So it starts there. The other is making sure that you're broadening your experiences. My mom's quote, which is on my website, you are as broad or as narrow as your experiences. So sometimes that takes volunteering. Sometimes it takes taking jobs where they're not paying a lot so that you can get that additional experience on your resume. And then the third thing is professional development, whether it is formal learning or informal, self-taught, taking courses online. Take advantage of all the professional development opportunities you can, and let people know, your supervisor, that you would like to go to this, retreat or this symposium. Because I can say honestly that the organizations that I've trained with, Center for Creative Leadership, Women Leaders in College Sports, the UNC System programs, they have all helped me hone my management and my leadership skills. And so I would definitely say, those three things. Tell people what you want to do and your goals and dreams. Make sure that you take advantage of all the experiences that, it's at your disposal. And then three, make sure that you are taking advantage of all kinds of professional development opportunities.
So let me just recap, because our show really is about low cost and or free options for development, your acceleration of you. And you've given us three great things. Tell people what you want. How easy is that? And that's totally free, right? You just share your passion, share your goals. Networking, it's always a great idea to network and share with those around you. As you said, sometimes you volunteer, sometimes you take a job you may or may not want because of pay, but it's going to give you those skills. And then lastly, that professional development. And professional development can be very expensive, or it can be not so expensive. So another great tip there. You mentioned that you're a mom, that you just went and watched your daughter play. What do you tell to a woman that's a lot? You've got a very full plate. How have you juggled that?
So, reflecting back now, I have an opportunity to kind of say, what in the world was I thinking? But I can say my daughter played club volleyball for 9 years, but she's on a national team, so she traveled a lot. I may have missed maybe 3 tournaments in that 9 years. And so, but I have to give credit to, again, my family. They laugh at me because I used to do an itinerary in Excel, and every hour of the day was someone doing something in terms of the kids, whether it's waking them up, go to school, pick them up, go to, take them to practice. And then I would send it out to my village, and I'd be like, okay, who's going to do what? And they would fill it in. And so, therefore, when I would leave to go out of town, because I traveled so much, I didn't have to worry. And they didn't have to worry because we had a plan. And so that kind of really helped me make sure the household was managed well. But also, too, it's so funny because when my daughter became 15, my son was 17, and I was gone just for a day. And I didn't do an itinerary because they're 15 and 17. And oh my goodness, my mom, my dad, my husband, everyone, where's the itinerary? I'm like, you guys, you should know this by now. But routine is very important. But also, too, you have to find time for yourself. I'm a Gen Xer, so I work hard and I play hard. And my vice was live music. And so I would find time during the week, every week, to make sure that I was taking time for myself. And so it is challenging. You also can find ways of integrating. Higher ed and college athletics is a beautiful place for young kids. And because I really promoted a family atmosphere in our workplace, it was nothing to see, nothing strange to see kids in the gym or in the building after 3 o'clock, because I understood daycare. I understood childcare. So my kids grew up around college student athletes. And so I found ways of integrating home and work through my profession.
That's wonderful. It sounds like you were very blessed. I love the plan. And for folks who may not be able to utilize an Excel spreadsheet, you could just work out a plan. It doesn't have to be in a spreadsheet. And I think that's great. I think that it's wonderful that you had trained your family so well that when you left town, everybody was looking for the itinerary. Where's the itinerary?
Right.
How dare you leave them without the itinerary? So that's really cute and that's really sweet. And it's wonderful that you were able to incorporate your family, your biological family, in with your athletic family. Once again, what advice do you give to women who may not be that blessed, that they can't bring their children or they can't bring those folks from work home to home?
Yeah, and it is challenging. A lot of my colleagues in this field, especially as women in this position, have to take jobs in order to advance their careers in places that are not close to home, where there's not a lot of support systems. And so when talking with them, they have to build that. They have to find that support system there, whether it is finding a grad student on campus to help out. So it can be challenging, but I think what's very important is before you take that job, that it's known up front with your supervisor. Hey, this is my situation. Some may bend, some may not. I'm actually working with an organization called We Coach, and it's an organization for women coaches of all sports, all levels. And we're working on a toolkit that we can give to supervisors and athletic directors and chancellors to say, here are some things that you need to think about when you are hiring women leaders and women coaches. So that they're cognizant of, right, there may be daycare needs. There may be, I may need to travel with my child, so that needs to be in my contract. So it can be very challenging, but one, I would say, how can you build a village, a temporary village, an extended family village around you in that workplace setting? But also, too, making sure you're letting your supervisor know up front, here are the things that I have obligations for. My family is first. And hope and pray, that supervisor will be understanding and can be flexible to work around those your family needs, which are first and foremost.
Once again, going back to your tell your supervisor where you are and where you want to go. So I totally agree with that. Great idea. In terms of the coaching, there's been a lot of discussion about coaching and management, and actually that it's a very thin line, that maybe coaches make great managers and managers might potentially make a great coach. What lessons did you learn out there on the court that you've brought into the boardroom?
Wow. Fairness doesn't mean always what the rules are for everything. I think you have to look at the individual. When you're coaching in my sport, volleyball, 15 to 18 young women, they're different personalities. They're different needs. And I think being fair means understanding what each person needs. There are some sports that are even larger, like softball, we had maybe 25. But I took on that responsibility, and my obligation was to make sure that each of those young women were provided the best service. And so in coaching, you really have to understand your players and who does what best, which really hones your delegation skills, your management skills in terms of evaluating and assessing. And I think for coaches, that is something that they're not, they do, but they don't realize they're doing it. I had the fortunate, to be a coach and an administrator at the same time for most of my career. So I saw it on both sides. When I got into the seat as the leader, I saw that coaches really don't hone their management skills as much as their leadership skills. And so that is something that I've been very adamant about, very intentional about with coaches, so that they understand all of the skill sets that they need to be good managers of their programs. But for me, again, because I was seeing it from both lens, coaching and administration, I was able to develop a lot of those skills. And now I would say my leadership style is more coaching, just because it just, because of all the years that I did that. But really, truly understanding who you're working with. I'm real big on personality assessments. Whatever that is good for team development and people development, that's what I'm going to utilize in my leadership and my management style. So I think that's what taught me most with coaching, was understanding the individual student athlete and what their needs are, and then how do you bring that all into the whole.
And I think you said something that I don't think a lot of us think about, and you talked about sometimes great coaches are coaches, but they're not managers. Maybe that they forget a team is an organization. It's a structure. It is something that you are having to manage. I'm not even sure I really thought about it until you just made that comment. In terms of personality test, once again, the show is about low cost and often free resources, and those are something we can provide to any of our audience folks that are thinking, oh, maybe I should implement this in my workforce. That's something we can help you with here at the university. Some of those personality tests you can do online for free, like DISC, and some of them can. Yeah, and DISC is a wonderful example of one that you can do, and just kind of gives you a very simplistic view of what your strong person and maybe what's maybe not a strong person in a bad way, but just a different type of an employee, so that you can build your team accordingly. So that's something we can definitely help you with here at the university, and I'm sure that might be something you'll talk about again at the Women's Conference on the 30th.
Yes, I think being a manager and leader in those roles, you have to be self-aware. And so I've taken almost every assessment that you can take. The latest one is the predictive index, which a lot of companies use in HR and hiring. But it just helps you understand who you are first, because if you can't lead anybody else until you can lead yourself. So I'm a proponent of just getting as much information as you can to help you develop yourself and your skills, your communication skills, your listening skills, your empathy skills, and all of your soft skills, which are so needed today in the workplace.
I have a phrase that I use, and I just talk about having your house in order. If my house isn't in order, how can I, effectively work with you and or manage or lead you? So our last few minutes here, you brought up something that I hear so often from employers, and we've called them a variety of things over the past 30 years. You're referencing them as soft skills. I do as well. But a lot of employers feel like that is sorely lacking today in the workforce. What are your thoughts on that? What ones do you see that are missing the most?
Well, I will tell you now that that's something that we started working on with our student athletes right in my last year in our leadership academy. I read somewhere where that was one of the number one things that employers are looking for, are those soft skills now. Because I think these students and young folks are they're so intelligent because they have so much access to information. So that's not where the deficit is, right, for them. It is on the soft skill side. It's on the critical thinking. But the biggest one for me is empathy skills. And I think, especially in today's society, when there's such a lack of civility, empathy would be the one thing that can help. So as a leader, your ability to really understand, again, it goes back to my coaching scenario, understanding who you're working with, understanding where they are, how they see things, right, because people's perceptions are their realities, helps you to become a better team member, a better leader. And so with those soft skills, it's really developing the empathy skills, developing the critical thinking skills, because again, today's generation, they've grown up with, what we're using right now, cell phone, which they can get any information very quickly, and they can tell them exactly how to do something without them really thinking it through. How can they do that on their own? And so those are some of the skills. that I think need to be developed more and focused on more.
Yes, and now with the whole introduction of, artificial intelligence, and that's a discussion that we're having here at the university. What are we going to do with that? Because when you talk about having information at your fingertips, it really is an abundance out there, right? And you don't ever have to necessarily put down your technology to engage with another living human. So I totally hear what you're saying there. When you coach individual people through your leadership company, what is one of the biggest requests that you see coming from your clients? What's the one thing they want to work on? If you had to pick a top one thing.
Honestly, and especially many of them are still in the athletic setting, is building a team.
Okay.
And I don't, I was so fortunate to have great people around me, and so a lot of the credit goes to them because I didn't do anything on my own. But I do get from a lot of my colleagues and people that I'm working with that they really admired how my team worked as a team, and that they would do anything for me, for the student athletes. And so that just centers around just developing people individually and having empathy. And so I think that's one of the biggest things that I'm asked, well, how did you do this? How did you develop this team where everything is working, despite all the challenges of, the finances and just the bureaucracy and all of that? Is because we built a level of trust amongst us. And so a lot of the questions come about, well, how do you get that trust? And how do you get people to buy in? And so I work a lot with my colleagues and the people that I coach on how do you develop that trust. One of the books, The Speed of Trust by Stephen R. Covey, was given to me by Debbie Yao, the former AD at North Carolina State. And I so wish I would have read that book on day one when I became the athletic director. But trust is so important. But that's pretty much what I get questions about. How to handle this coach who's got this personality, because coaches of different sports, they really do have their own personalities by sport. And so that's pretty much what I'm asked when I'm working with people, coaching them.
And that's right. And I bet you think, oh yeah, that's just such an easy answer. How do I get everybody to love me? So Yao and Covey, I mean, you're talking about two great mentor, and then Covey, just great advice, very very simple terms. So let me ask you, don't lie now, Ingrid. There had to be players you traded off. You had to run up on a few over the years that you could not bring into the team. What's the advice on that?
Yeah, there were a few. When those situations occur, you do have to go into a different mode. I think the care is still there, because the first and foremost is the student athlete. And what I would share with the coaches and staff, it's the student athletes, it's the university, then it's the rest of us. Coaches didn't like that, but you have to really keep what the goal is in mind and who is the primary customer, which is our students. And so when those situations would occur, I kind of went to a more of this is where we are, the expectations are X, Y, and Z, and you just kind of leave it there. And then you do your due diligence in terms of holding each other accountable. So I think that you can still work, because of course you're not going to have 100% clones of you or a particular coach, but you have to find that fit. And so if the two people are here not on the same page with regard to the student and the student athlete and serving them first, then we can work through things. But the expectations have to be extremely clear, and you do go into a little bit more protective mode in terms of documenting and things like that. And it's unfortunate, but hey, that's the real world. But you still work through it and you still move on. But the expectations have to be very clear.
Expectations and a clear vision. Yes, I think you're absolutely correct. And once again, for our business owners that are listening this morning, and then you went into the documentation, that's exactly what you would do in business, right? Make sure the expectations are clear, the vision, the mission statement is clear, and then unfortunately, if we're not getting the results that we really need, we just document. But I love how you said we have that kind of meeting and we leave it there, and then we kind of leave it up to the person to see what they're going to do. So great advice that you've given our audience today. So a parting note, what can we look forward to on the 30th when you come into Rocky Mount?
Well, I hope that, I am a morning person, so you'll get my energy for sure. But, I just want to make sure that my comments in terms of, I will be talking about my 3 C's, which are communicating, connecting, and care, and how that impacts the theme, insight, influence, and impact. And I think that I'm looking forward to meeting everyone, and hopefully, someone reaching out that I can help them individually. I always try to make sure that when I am in these spaces and opportunities that, that's what I'm there for, is to help. And so when someone reaches out to me and say, hey, can I give you a call? Can we, stay in touch? That makes my day.
That's
so
wonderful.
I'm looking forward to doing that and just bringing and sharing some of my experiences with everyone there in hopes that it does have an impact and help them with their endeavors and their dreams.
Wonderful. Well, once again, we look forward to seeing you on March 30th at the Rocky Mount Event Center from 8 to 1. Tickets may still be available at the Rocky Mount Area Chamber of Commerce. You can reach out to them and see what they have available. I think they have a wait list at this point. Ingrid, thank you so much for joining us on the morning show and Accelerated You, and I look forward to seeing you in a couple of weeks.
Thank you so much. Have a great week.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.